Is up? So, I've been wanting to do this video for seriously so long. So, here it is, the Pixar tier list. All right. All right. Let's start with The Incredibles. Now, everyone knows I love The Incredibles. I've talked about it before. Watch literally any of my other videos. This is literally the fourth video that I've made, and all four of them have The Incredibles. And anyone who knows this channel, watches it, knows that this is just my favorite animated movie. So yeah, it's gonna go in the go watch category. Next up, let's do Coco. Let's do Coco because Coco is absolutely. I really want to say it's excellent, but I think it's in the go watch. It's gonna be in the lower end, but it's in the go watch. Coco just has a lively and joyful tone. It's so l- vibrant. The colors are vibrant. Everything about it is just screaming culture. And it's a really good family movie. And I think it solves all the problems that Book of Life had with cultural appropriation. Um, there's some pretty good twists. I like the simple twists. They're relatively effective, and it's just a good time. I really think a lot of people should see this. Let's do next Brave. Now Brave is in the bad category because Brave is just bad. Like it's not like unwatchable. It's just so formulaic, it's basic, there's no tension, there's some awful comedy, but it's not like there's no points where I'm like, oh, it's not annoying at least. Now, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I actually think that Cars is unwatchable. Cars is so boring. It actually kind of makes me mad. But the reason it's not in bad is because Mater is also so annoying. Every time he's in there, he's like the most intrusive character I've ever seen. Like, it has a confusing world. I'm not invested at all in Lightning, mostly because he's a huge jerk, and everyone is unlikable. So yeah, Wally is like one of those movies that it feels like this movie is taking place in a huge world that we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of. It's just so good. It has a very simple plot, but you really are interested in seeing how the world plays out and how it happens. One of my biggest problems at first when I first watched it was I felt like sometimes they were shoving it down our throats in the beginning of the movie with the by and large BNL propaganda on Earth. I just felt like they were shoving it down our throat and like, oh look, this is very convenient. But actually, I was really interested. Yes, I know they were shoving it down our throats, but I was still very interested. So it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. It perfectly juggles a robot love story and a dystopian future, and it all does this with no or little talking. There's no one who really explains the plot to us. It's just shown, especially in the first act. Second act is weaker for sure, but it is still special, and I think a lot of people should go and see it. Okay, well, I guess we can do A Bug's Life. It's just average. Um, Not really much else to say about it. It's not unique. The lighting is not good at all. The characters are meh. The emotion is meh. I don't have a lot to say about this movie. There's just nothing that really stuck with me, you know? I can't think of a single scene where I'm like, oh yeah, that was a really good scene. You know, the villain is good. He's probably the highlight. Next up, let's do Ratatouille. Anyone who knows, who has seen this, knows that I love Ratatouille. Ratatouille, as I mentioned in my last video, is insanely atmospheric. I felt like I was being transported into the world in every scene. It's just so gorgeous. It made me want to cook. It inspired me to cook. And then not only is it really, really good in that regard, it's also really funny. I found myself laughing at a lot of things, particularly Linguini's physical expression. That was really good. Overall, this movie is just really highly underrated. I don't understand why people still think it's even like good would be saying I feel like not fair. I think a lot of people should rewatch this because it really is amazing. Let's do Inside Out. Inside Out is solid, like really solid. I'm gonna say it's one of the highest in the good. Now, I know a lot of people absolutely love this film, and by no means do I say it's bad. I just I think it's not as good as people say it is. Don't get me wrong. I think the setting is really cool and really creative. And just like Coco, just like Wall-E, it feels like we're just seeing the tip of this huge, vast world. That's really probably the most interesting part. I really like the emotions, characters, and for who they are, I thought maybe fear would just be a ball of nerves, and anger would be constantly lashing out, and joy would be annoyingly happy, and sadness would be sad all the time, and disgust would be sassy. And while there is touches of that, they are very interesting and they can deliver some really funny lines. They're very well calculated, and you can tell that Pixar really tried. I really like the arc that Joy goes through. She's definitely my favorite. But, you know, it is held back a little bit by sometimes it feels like it's the movie is working too hard to make you cry, and sometimes it goes way too quickly in places where I really wanted to stay in. Like I thought there could have been way more joke material inside the the land of dreams and the land of horrors, and I feel like there could have just been a lot less development of the abstraction zone. Yeah, so it's high good for sure. I really want to call it excellent, but it's not in the same vein as Wally for me. Next up, let's do Incredibles 2 because a lot of people thought that I did not like this movie when I did it. I'm actually going to go as far as to say that Incredibles 2 is excellent. Like it's actually excellent. Uh I feel like it's almost better than Wall-E. I'm going to say it's better than Wall-E. Incredibles 2 hands down has some of the best action on in anything I've ever seen. I absolutely love the Elasticycle, and I love the dialogue. I love the action. I cannot stress that enough. It is so good. I also really like that one of the things that I think is maybe a tiny bit better is the family feels like a unit, as in they're talking more as a group of superheroes rather than the parents scolding everyone in the first one. I think that's the only thing it does better. Next up, let's do Cars 3 because I think this one's actually probably the biggest missed opportunity. I'm gonna say it's definitely not as good as Inside Out, but it's definitely not average. I think it's good. Um, it has an incredible setup. I could not believe it. I was like, oh my god, are they going to make an excellent Cars movie? Because I was really interested in what Lightning was going to do. Because they set him up as likable because he's working so hard to be better, and all of his friends are leaving and giving up and retiring. It's really admirable. I really like the setup. It has a really interesting dynamic. Obviously, it's nothing compared to Incredibles, but I still really liked it. Unfortunately, this movie takes a turn for the worst. It's pretty much good from here on out. There's nothing really that I didn't like that much, except for, Mater's really annoying when he comes in, although he's not as bad. And yeah, there's nothing really I hated, and there's nothing that I loved aside from the setup. It was just a good sit. I would watch it again, you know, maybe on an airplane. Let's see here. Let's do let's talk about Toy Story, cuz Toy Story I think is overrated. Watching it, it's still better than Inside Out, but it's not as good as Wall-E. It's not excellent. I actually think it's very good. It is definitely the top of the good. It's really classic. Sid is pretty interesting, but he doesn't have as much depth as I like. And I'm going to be talking about this in the other Toy Story, which I might as well do all four of them now. I'm just jumping around. But my biggest problem really with this is it's too similar to today's movies. When it came out, I'm sure it was innovative and remarkable, but it just follows a very basic formula, and I do think it's overrated. Let's think here. Toy Story 2. Oh, yes. So, this might surprise you guys, but I'm actually going to go as far as to say that on a dynamic level, from an objective standpoint, Toy Story 2 is better than Ratatouille. It wasn't in my top 10. Toy Story 2 was ranked higher, but I still think it's better. And that really comes down to what the Toy Story franchise does better and the best, and it is the themes. Now, is it worth it to go through the turmoil of, yes, being loved, but then it goes into this whole dynamic of, is it worth it to be loved and then be thrown into the trash? Is it worth it to go through that? And that's something that no, we really don't get to see in any other movie. And that's what really makes the Toy Story franchises really, really good to amazing. I really think that everyone should revisit. This movie has aged beautifully with time. The score is marvelous, and I really like the When She Loved Me song. It's really heartbreaking, and yeah, I just really had an amazing time watching this. It's definitely something I would see again and again. Even if Ratatouille is better, subjectively for me. Let's do Monsters University. Because I actually think I'm going to go as far as to say that this movie is excellent. I have a lot of thoughts. So, I think the dynamic in this movie is better than the first because it's nice to see them grow. A lot of critics have said that they're really unlikable, but I actually disagree because it's really nice to see them grow. In the first movie, they don't really grow a relationship. They already have a really strong relationship. It's nice to see that. But I think it's even more satisfying to see them go from mortal enemies to incredible friends. Uh, some critics have also said that they hate each other in the beginning and they did not like that. But I actually think it works well. They don't overplay it, and I think it's good. The scare games is probably my favorite of an archetype. I really like just the concept of games, and that's why the fourth Harry Potter is my favorite. The side characters are not good. I didn't really enjoy them, but they're not really talked about too much and they're not annoying. And then the villain is kind of underdeveloped, but at least she has an incredible presence. I was like, whoa, you know? So yeah, it was a very, very good time, and I was pleasantly surprised. I actually think this is justified. I think they did a good job with this. Okay, so believe it or not, Cars 2 is actually average. It's better than Cars. It's not as good as Cars 3. Now, this is something where I do think they have a weird and confusing world. And I do agree that it can be so bonkers that it doesn't work. But it is, there are some interesting side characters. I like the mentor figures. And I like seeing Mater not being super, super annoying this time. And then it does have a crazy energy, but for me, it worked better than a lot of other crazy energy movies, like B Movie, for example. Also, if you want to see like another tier list, I'm so down to do another tier list. That'd be so fun. I love doing these kinds of videos. All right, let's do Up. So Up is good. It's better than Cars 3. It's not as good as Inside Out because while the beginning is so memorable and heartbreaking, and I would rewatch it 1,000 times, the side Doug can either be really annoying or really heartwarming or hilarious. But when he's really annoying, he's worse than Mater, which I swear to God, Mater, man, he has been dug to the ground in this video. Yeah, so that's what I think. Um, yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Up is a good movie. It's a nice sit. I like it. That's all I'm gonna say. Toy Story 4. Now, Toy Story 4 is way better than I expected. It is excellent. Not as good as Monsters University, but it is excellent. Um, I actually think this movie is very connected because it's really a it's really a story about Woody. 2, 3, and 4 are all stories about Woody, and one is a story about Buzz. And it almost feels like 2, 3, and 4 could have been 1, 2, and 3, and then Toy Story could have been a prequel. That's what I personally think should have happened because 2 is fear of the separation of the child and thinking about what happens when you separate. 3 is the separation, the inevitable separation, which I'll talk about later. And then 4 is coping with the separation. So it would have been a really effective trilogy, and then a prequel could have been perfect. I don't think that it is connected with 1, just like I don't think 2 and 3 are really connected with 1 either. But I liked it. It's a fun carnival. It has a very nice sense of scale. And yeah, it was a good movie. Even excellent. Okay, we're getting into the final 5 here. Let's do Finding Nemo. Let's do Finding Nemo first. Finding Nemo reminded me what an amazing, glorious ocean looks like. It reminded me that fish can look undeniably gorgeous, and I actually think the animation is the crown jewel of this movie. It is astounding to me how good this movie looks. The sharks are so perfectly designed. I really, really enjoy pretty much everything on a design level. There's great voice acting, amazing voice acting. But the reason this movie is held back is because there's some parts where I thought were so annoying. I just wanted them to end as soon as possible. And that's what really holds this movie back for me. I specifically do not like Dory, and the bird joke got grating about, I'd say, half a second in. Yeah, so this movie's not particularly amazing. Finding Dory is average. The first time I saw it, I actually thought it was boring as tar, but, you know, it's average. There's nothing really that egregiously annoying about it or even super bad, just nothing about it that's memorable or warrants anything Pixar could have been doing aside from another sequel. Yeah, I do not think that Dory warranted a movie, although she is a lot less annoying in this one, at least, you know. But I think that Hank has amazing animation, and dang did they want to flex their muscles. It worked, man. I think it is gorgeous how amazing Hank's animation is. But other than that, there's really nothing that I loved. I wish we could have spent more time in the ocean, and that's really what brings Finding Nemo a lot higher on this list than Finding Dory. Next, let's do Toy Story 3. I know people are gonna hate me for doing all of them separately, but let's do Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3. I'm gonna put it in the excellent, right after these two movies. And I think that really comes down to just the new themes. And that is really, I'm going to say it again because I don't think the Toy Story movies are appreciated well enough for this. Their themes are absolutely spot on. And unlike Cars, every single one of their themes has something to do with toys. It warrants toys to be there. Cars is just, they just act like humans. But they're cars, they're not humans, but they act exactly like humans. There's no interesting anything from that. And it really makes me kind of confused because they can go on and make Toy Story 4, Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 2 and they're all better than Cars by a mile. They all have an amazing synergy with themes and how those themes are expanded on in a unique way. And yeah, I can't believe they made four movies that were just amazing to go watch it. Again, I can't stress enough how good Toy Story 2 is. All right, let's finish up this list here with Monsters Inc. Monsters Inc. I'm gonna say is God. It's really hard. I'm choosing between good and excellent. I'm gonna put it in excellent because I think they have still. I know I complained in Monsters University, but they still have a really good dynamic. Sorry, hold on. Sorry about that. My mom turned off the lights, so it messed up the reading a little bit because I'm reading off a chart. Um, I do think that they should have had a better plot, and I think it should have revolved around the world a little bit better. But they still did an amazing job with this movie. It's not as good as Monsters University, the dynamic, but Randy is a really, really interesting villain. And I think he has a very evil presence. And I like the elements, not horror. They're not right at horror, but they're in the thriller vein. I also think it has an amazing ending. All right. Lastly, let's talk about The Good Dinosaur. Now, The Good Dinosaur is next to Finding Nemo, in that the animation is really the crowning jewel. And I hesitate to put it in good, so I'm going to put it in average, but it's going to be the best in average. Sorry about that. Yeah. So basically my thoughts on this movie are The Good Dinosaur is average. Its animation is really the crown, but there's really not much else. It's an interesting story, but it doesn't really develop any of its characters. I like the beginning, but when the wolf child comes, he's not as interesting. The only parts that I really enjoyed were the parts where the animation got to be really creative, like where the firefly scene happened. So yeah, that's my Pixar tier list. If you disagree with any, tell me which ones I should have put higher. All right, thanks for watching.